The creation of Marshmallow, Elsa's silent guardian. In the heart of the North Mountain, Elsa had finally found solitude. After years of concealing her powers, she was now free to express herself without fear of judgment. Her ice palace, a magnificent structure of shimmering frost and towering spires, was her sanctuary. But even in her isolation, Elsa knew she couldn't remain hidden forever. The world outside would eventually come looking for her. One day, as she stood on her balcony, feeling the cold wind rush through her hair, Elsa's thoughts were interrupted by an unsettling feeling. She sensed movement below. Her sister, Anna, had recently visited, but Elsa knew the dangers of being disturbed again. Her emotions were still fragile, and the outside world could trigger uncontrollable powers. To protect her palace and ensure her peace, Elsa decided to create a guardian, one made entirely of snow and ice. With a wave of her hand, she channeled her magic into a swirling vortex of snowflakes. Slowly, the figure began to take shape. It was enormous, towering over any intruder that might try to breach the palace's icy halls. Its body was made of compact snow, with jagged ice shards protruding from its limbs like armor. Elsa's eyes glowed with determination as she brought the creature to life. "I shall call you Marshmallow," Elsa whispered, her voice both commanding and gentle. Marshmallow's first breath was a deep rumble, like the crackling of ice on a frozen lake. His eyes, glowing blue like Elsa's magic, opened slowly, scanning his surroundings. Although he was silent, his presence was powerful, his mere existence enough to ward off any threats. Elsa stepped forward, placing her hand on Marshmallow's massive chest. "You will protect this palace," she said softly. "Keep out anyone who means to harm me." Marshmallow nodded in understanding, his eyes locked onto hers with a sense of loyalty. Without a word, he lumbered outside, taking his place at the palace entrance. Elsa watched him from her balcony, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. She hadn't wanted to isolate herself, but the world had left her with little choice. Now, with Marshmallow standing guard, she could finally have the peace she longed for. Days passed, and Elsa's solitude remained undisturbed, thanks to her silent sentinel. Marshmallow, though fierce and imposing, was not just a mindless protector. He had a gentle side, often standing quietly in the moonlight, admiring the beauty of the ice palace he was sworn to defend. Sometimes, he would create tiny snowflakes in his hands, watching them dissolve with curiosity. But one day, everything changed. Anna, determined to reach her sister, approached the palace once more. Accompanied by Kristoff and Olaf, they trekked through the snow, their breath visible in the icy air. As they neared the palace, Marshmallow immediately sensed their presence. With a growl that echoed through the mountains, he stepped forward, blocking the entrance. Anna gasped at the sight of the enormous snow guardian. "Elsa created that?" she whispered, both impressed and intimidated. Kristoff took a cautious step back, eyeing Marshmallow warily. "We need to be careful. I don't think he's going to let us in easily." But Olaf, the ever-cheerful snowman, beamed at Marshmallow. "Hey, you're like me, but bigger, and scarier, but still cool." Marshmallow glared down at Olaf, clearly unamused. Anna stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "I need to see my sister," she called out to Marshmallow, hoping he would understand. The snow guardian didn't move. His eyes narrowed, and he raised a massive hand as if to swat them away. But then, in that moment of hesitation, Marshmallow's icy blue eyes softened. Something in Anna's voice reminded him of Elsa, her sadness, her loneliness. He had been created to protect Elsa, but he knew that sometimes protection meant more than just guarding physical spaces. It meant protecting her heart. Slowly, Marshmallow lowered his hand and stepped aside, allowing Anna and her companions to pass. Anna looked up at the snow guardian, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. As they entered the palace, Marshmallow returned to his post. His mission was clear: to protect Elsa, not just from the outside world, but from her own fear and isolation. Though fierce in appearance, Marshmallow had a heart of snow, fragile yet strong, just like the queen who had created him. And from that day on, Marshmallow remained a steadfast protector, a silent guardian of the icy palace and the fragile heart within. As Anna, Kristoff, and Olaf ventured deeper into the palace, the icy corridors echoed with the sounds of their footsteps. Anna's heart raced as she thought about what lay ahead. She wasn't sure how Elsa would react to her arrival, especially after everything that had happened. But she knew she couldn't give up. Her sister needed her. Meanwhile, outside the palace, Marshmallow stood silently at his post. The wind howled through the mountains, sending swirling snow around his towering form, but he remained motionless. To any outsider, he appeared as nothing more than a mindless snow giant, created solely for protection. But deep inside, Marshmallow had developed an understanding of his purpose, a growing awareness of the one who had created him. He remembered Elsa's expression when she had brought him to life. There was a sadness behind her determination, a loneliness that even her grand palace couldn't hide. She had created the palace and him, not just to protect herself from the world, but to shield her heart from the pain of losing control again. As the storm outside intensified, Marshmallow's thoughts were interrupted by a distant figure approaching the palace. His glowing blue eyes locked onto the approaching shadow, alert and ready to defend. The figure came closer, revealing a tall, regal man draped in fur-lined robes. Prince Hans of the Southern Isles. Hans, with a manipulative smile, moved with careful calculation. He had heard rumors of Elsa's snow guardian, but seeing the massive creature up close gave him pause. Still, his ambition was greater than his fear. "I need to speak with the queen," Hans called out, his voice steady but cold. Marshmallow let out a low, rumbling growl, his icy breath visible in the air. His instincts told him that this man was different from the others. Unlike Anna, whose heart had shone with warmth and love, this man carried darkness, a hidden agenda. Marshmallow knew his purpose, to protect Elsa from those who meant harm, and this stranger reeked of danger. Hans slowly reached for the sword at his side. "Stand down," he commanded, his voice filled with false authority. "I will not be denied." But Marshmallow wasn't easily fooled. With a sudden burst of speed that defied his massive size, he charged forward, his heavy footsteps causing the ground to shake. Hans barely had time to draw his sword before Marshmallow's enormous hand swept him aside, sending him crashing into a snowbank. The prince's sword skittered across the ice, out of his reach. Groaning, Hans struggled to his feet, his once confident smirk replaced with a look of fear. He hadn't expected such a powerful defense. As he glanced up at the towering snow giant, he knew that brute force wouldn't win him this battle. He needed a different tactic. "Wait!" Hans shouted, raising his hands in surrender. "I only want to help her. Elsa's out of control. She's a danger to Arendelle and to herself. If you don't let me through, she'll hurt more people." Marshmallow paused for a moment, considering the prince's words. Hans' voice was desperate, but his eyes betrayed him. There was no compassion in his gaze, only hunger for power. The snow guardian could sense the deceit, the darkness lurking beneath the surface. With a low growl, Marshmallow stepped forward again, his massive form casting a long shadow over the trembling prince. Hans took a step back, but he wasn't ready to give up. "You don't understand," he pleaded. "If I don't stop her, Arendelle will be destroyed." The mention of Elsa's home gave Marshmallow pause once more. He thought of Elsa, her sadness, her struggle. She didn't want to hurt anyone, least of all her own kingdom. But this man, this prince, didn't care about her. He only cared about his own ambitions. With one final, thunderous roar, Marshmallow raised his hand and brought it down, sending a wave of snow and ice crashing into Hans. The prince was knocked off his feet, his body tumbling backward in the blizzard. He scrambled to his feet, retreating down the mountain, knowing he had no chance against the mighty snow guardian. As Hans disappeared into the storm, Marshmallow stood tall once more, his duty fulfilled. He turned back toward the palace, his thoughts returning to Elsa. Though she had created him to protect her physical realm, Marshmallow understood that his true purpose was to protect her heart. He would guard her from those who wished to control her, and even from herself when her fears became too great. Inside the palace, Anna finally reached Elsa's throne room. The air was thick with tension as the sisters faced each other, the weight of their past unspoken between them. Elsa's expression was one of conflict. She loved her sister, but the fear of hurting her again was overwhelming. "Anna," Elsa whispered, her voice trembling, "you shouldn't have come." Anna stepped forward, her eyes filled with determination. "I had to. You don't have to be alone, Elsa. We can figure this out. Together." Elsa's hands trembled as ice began to form on the walls around them. "I can't control it, Anna. I don't want to hurt you." But Anna shook her head, refusing to back down. "You won't. I trust you." In that moment, outside the palace, Marshmallow's icy eyes glowed with a sense of peace. He could feel the change in the air. Elsa wasn't just protecting herself anymore. She was allowing herself to be vulnerable, to let love in. As the storm outside began to calm, Marshmallow remained at his post, ever watchful, ever loyal. He would always be Elsa's silent guardian, standing between her and the dangers of the world. But now, he knew that the most important battle had already been won. Elsa had found her strength, not in isolation, but in love. And with that, both she and her snow guardian were finally at peace.